You're watching a Dukascopy special looking at Russia's trade relations with Christopher Hartwell, president of CASE in Warsaw. Russia is Europe's second biggest customer, and it could face up to €12 billion in losses due to the Russia import ban. Now, Christopher, what do you think about today's announcement that Poland will demand EU compensation for induced losses?
Well, I think, the whole Poland's announcement, and I mean, they've been talking about this for days, as well as Bulgaria and some other countries really looking into getting compensation. I think what you have here is symptomatic of what's the problem with agricultural policy, not just in Russia, not just in the European Union, but really in the world, in that it's kind of seen as this government-owned subsidiary, that the ag sector is something that can be turned on and turned off and needs to be supported and needs to be nurtured, things like this. The whole agricultural policy in the EU especially is a mess. So, I mean, what we're seeing now is kind of the chickens coming home to roost. I really wouldn't worry. 12 billion euros is something, it's a huge amount. It's only 10% of EU's agricultural exports, external exports from the Union, though. And, the EU makes up 40% of Russia's internal imports. So it's going to hurt the producers in the European Union. It's going to hurt the Poles. It's going to hurt the Bulgarians. It's going to hurt even the French and the Germans. But it's not really going to, if it comes down to a war of attrition, Russia is going to cave first just because they rely so much more. The European Union has these other markets it can go to. But to kind of come back around to the, I was saying about agricultural policy, Poland demanding EU compensation for something that they've really been on the front lines of pushing for sanctions against Russia. It's just adding distortion on top of distortion. We have government interference in agricultural markets that make agricultural producers suffer, and then we want to add another distortion and say, well, let's compensate them for something that we've done. So, I mean, it's really symptomatic of a whole big mess, and it's really just all kind of coming together right now in this perfect storm.
One of the most interesting points about the import ban is that India is seeing this as an opportunity to fix their trade problems and give their economy a boost by importing products to Russia that are banned for the US and EU. Now, Christopher, do you think India will be able to make the most out of this opportunity?
This is really something that's going on in Russia as well. There's this talk of reorienting markets. Again, as if government can just say, we will stop trading here, we will start trading here, ignoring all kind of laws of comparative advantage of prices, things like that. I mean, obviously that's problematic. In the past, India and Russia, though they're part of this amorphous BRICS grouping, they really haven't done a lot of trade together. They have long cultural, military defense ties stretching back through the Soviet Union, and they have this same kind of approach towards trade, thinking that it should be government directed. But in terms of trade volumes, it's been low. It was 11 billion US in 2012. It was less last year. India really does see this as an opportunity, as well it should. Again, if there is a distortion funneling things your way, it is an opportunity. The only problem is that India itself is so riddled with bureaucratic difficulties in exporting in terms of where it is on the world's rank of exporters. It's far below where it should be performing, and just all the difficulties that come with being an exporter in India. I don't think economically they can actually capitalize on this opportunity. There's another distortion, but they're so riddled with distortions that it's going to be very difficult to kind of turn and really access the Russian market.
The new Modi government also plans to import huge volumes of natural gas from Russia. It would be a $40 billion pipeline. Now, this would be the biggest ever energy project in history and would enhance India's energy security. However, it will take a lot of political will. So, Christopher, do you think this pipeline could actually happen, or is it just a pipe dream?
In the long run, I mean, India should be diversifying its energy sources. It imports, I think, about 76% of its energy already from abroad. And Russia is close. Russia is obviously a fantastic supporter of these primary commodity exports. But in terms of right now, a $40 billion pipeline is, well, it's something that both India and Russia love. They love these mega projects, and it's something that they can see as stimulating the economy. The political will is definitely very high right now, again, for the aforementioned kind of sticking it to the West. Reality, though, I mean, on the ground, where is this pipeline going to go? It's going to cut through either Xinjiang, where China is facing its own Muslim unrest, or it's going through Turkmenistan, a still Soviet state. It's going to cut through Afghanistan, which is still reaping the benefits of the Soviet invasion of the 1980s. It's going to cut through Pakistan, which is just kind of infested with extremists and obviously is no friend of India. The logistical problems that come with this pipeline already are immense. I think the political will is finally kind of prodding it in the right direction. And we've seen in Russia, political will can swamp over all these kind of inefficiencies and corruption and things that wouldn't be done in a free market. But I think this is a pipeline too far. I don't see how this can really happen given the state of the world today.
As a result of the ban, the ruble ended last week at an all-time low. Do you think we could see another round of more hawkish actions and rhetoric which could put additional pressure on the ruble?
Definitely, without a doubt. It's kind of funny. The Central Bank of Russia has, and I've always been very vocal about this, they've been very, very good since probably Putin's first term, since they really brought in the reformers. The Central Bank of Russia has been very good at working with what it's given. They're moving towards inflation targeting. They really are, they're cognizant of what's going on in the Russian economy. However, like I said, they're good at working with what they've been given. Right now, the car is kind of out of control. They don't have a lot that they can do to steer the economy. They really wanted to see a weaker ruble, but given everything that Russia has done politically, the ruble has far overshot where they wanted it to be. And of course, the final irony in this was that the whole point of having a weaker ruble, as Putin himself had talked about, was to kind of increase Russian trade. Well, one hand says we're going to weaken the ruble to increase Russian trade. The other hand says, sorry, you're not allowed to trade. So there's all these contradictory policies that are going on right now. No one has a real handle on economic policy in Russia. And every time Putin intervenes, it's for political ends, not for economic ones. So I think, without a doubt, we're going to see the ruble continue to weaken, especially in kind of the face of these export bans. I do not see any upside to the ruble in the coming years.
Christopher, thank you very much. Well, viewers, of course, we have plenty more interviews just like this one heading your way, so stay tuned.